For this latest classic Everquest modding video, I'm going to show off something different from my zoneless continent work I've demonstrated in my last two videos. So this is an entirely new zone, created in the classic art style. So on the continent of Antonica, there are several major named areas on the printed map which did not have zones associated with them in the classic era. Some of them eventually got zones added in later expansions, but those newer ones typically don't look very classic and don't tie into the continent in terms of how you access them, like the classics ones did. The new classic zone I've created is the Rujarkian Hills. Now this is an area that was added later to Everquest as a series of instance dungeons in the Lost Dungeons and Norrath expansion. I never played this content myself, but did some research. All I really found were, a series of underground dungeon crawls, not a lot of outdoor stuff. We did come across this one image that looked like an outdoor part of one of these dungeons, but still not very helpful. Everquest 2 did add a place called the Clefts of Rujark in one of its expansions, and this is a outdoor zone that is inspired by kind of American Southwest desert canyons, and this definitely kind of gave us a bit more of an idea of what this region should be like. So our Rujarkian Hills will be desert tablelands that have steep cliffs. Those cliffs will sort of show layered strata of rock, and at the base of these canyons will be some greenery, that'll have like a stream that is, the thing that cut the deep canyon out. And here is the zone layout that I concepted for this new area. So this specific layout is meant for the zoneless Antonica context, but the classic standalone version wouldn't be all that different. It'll have, a pair of major canyon systems, each with a, kind of a stream through the middle of it, and we'll dot the zones with, some orc camps, bandit camps, and, whatever else we feel like adding to it, down the road. So here's the geometry for the zone in Blender after modeling and texturing were wrapped up. So it, of course, is really boxy in terms of its shape and super low fidelity, and that was to make it feel like it would fit right along with all of the other original Antonica zones. Size-wise, it's about as big as the Steamfont Mountains, maybe a little bit smaller. Here it is, here's that other zone kind of imported to give a little context. That's the size of this zone. And here it is imported into Unity, and it's been decorated with a bunch of props. A lot of these are, I'd say most of them, are existing props from other zones. I'm not using any of my, what I call the 1.5 sort of revisited assets. These are all just classic assets. So the trees are going to be the, the billboard trees. Things like the rocks and stuff are going to be the super low res versions. The lighting and atmospherics, of course, are the high definition render pipeline stuff, so that's not very classic, of course. I think, when we get this brought in, we will try to get it lit using the baked vertex lighting the way the original zones were, so it definitely, has consistency with the other classic zones. So yeah, so we're going to fire it up. I'll take a quick tour around this zone and show you the major areas. So of course, classic Oasis had an exit on the west side that didn't go to any place, but definitely seemed like it might have been meant for a place. And the idea here is, I created a similar tunnel using a lot of those same canyon textures that you see in Oasis. So this is assumed you zoned in from that section. And yeah, so you get, these big canyon walls, tablelands, dotting it with some, super low fidelity rock formations and these bushes that are just cards. This isn't super high res stuff. I've downsampled all the terrain textures to 64 to match the resolution of Classic. So, yep, the ground's all blurry, just like it was in Classic Everquest. A bit about these ground textures. One of the Lantern contributing artists, a guy named Modislaw, he provided most of this stuff. He's been doing a lot of work, and the stuff he did for this zone is really just a drop in the bucket of the work he's been doing. I encourage you to kind of, if you're interested in this sort of stuff, hop on the Discord and see some of the stuff he's been doing. He's made these texture packs that are all up-resed versions of all the classic textures, and he's done this with a combination of using some AI tools, doing a ton of research and digging into finding the texture collections, clip art stuff that the original artist sourced from. So many times he's been digging around on a texture CD, and he's like, hey, this is the thing that showed up here, and voila, suddenly he has something that's 4-8 times the texture resolution of what showed up in Everquest. So went around the base of this like one table formation, and gonna go up and show like the first proposed zone connection off of this Rujarkian Hill zone, and that would be a place we're going to call the Death Fist Citadel. Now we know there was one created for Everquest 2, I believe as a dungeon. I never played that, but we sort of envision the Death Fist Citadel as like a Crushbone like newbie dungeon. And so anyway, this tunnel, canyon, whatever you want to call it, it would connect to that new zone. It doesn't exist. It's just something proposed. We would add it. And by the way, when I say we, I'm talking about anybody who's like contributing in the Lantern project. So now I'm going to run over to the southwest corner of this new zone, and this will be where we've sort of taken some of the visual aesthetics of Inithul Swamp and incorporated it in this corner. Now we envision that you can also enter Rujarkian Hills from the south. Now, classic Inithul does not have an exit for this. That's a question that we don't have an answer for yet. How do we modify classic zones to add a new exit? It's not really something we've tried to do. And the reason that's difficult is Lantern uses the original assets. Inithul Swamp has no exit location to a hypothetical region north of it. So we couldn't add a trigger for that zone connection the way we could easily add a trigger down that little bit off of Oasis. Yeah, something we'll have to look into. I'm sure it's solvable. Yeah, we'll just have to come up with some kind of solution. So we've arrived at our, proposed exit point to take you down to Inethul. When I go to now integrate this into my zoneless continent, the idea here would be this little stream would continue and seamlessly connect to the waterway down that way. In this case, I just sort of terminated the stream in a little pond. I'm going to start running north now and show the final exit point for this zone, and that would be the Orc home city. When I say home city, one of the things that the Lantern team has put some work into is this idea of adding a new playable race, orcs. There is quite a bit of cool stuff that was done to take the classic orc mesh, the mob, and tune its UVs, make some new textures, and give it the support that is necessary to turn it into a playable character race. So yeah, definitely check those out. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So while 95% of the props being used to decorate the zone are props that can be found in other parts of Classic Everquest, we did create a couple of new things that are going to be unique to this area. The first that I'm approaching, borrowing some textures, from the Wood Elf City, is just this like big rope bridge over this canyon. Just seemed like a good opportunity to provide a cool point of view and just add some interesting navigation, an alternate way to cross that chasm. And then the other thing is a custom orky watchtower. So with the what we're thinking with the orc architecture is kind of keeping with the American Southwest aesthetic. We're drawing inspiration from stuff like Mesa Verde, Tonto Monument, Native American Southwest, Adobe style architecture. And finally here we've arrived at the exit point that would lead to an orc home city zone. No work's been done on that. We're definitely thinking kind of cliff dwellings as the direction. At whatever point I, get some progress on that, a gray box or something, I'll try to make a video of that, and elicit some feedback on it. Anyway, thanks again for watching this video.